The bodies of 18 fallen soldiers killed in eastern DRC are heading to the Entebbe International Airport in Uganda for repatriation and are likely to arrive in South Africa later on today. For an update, let's now chat to SABC News International Editor Sophie. Sophie, a very good morning to you. Thanks indeed for joining us on the show this morning. After so many logistical bottlenecks and delays, what can you tell us about the state of the repatriation process?
Yes, indeed, we know that the bodies of South Africans, but not only South Africans, that included Malawians and Tanzanians, were transported, not flown, because the airport is not in use, transported from Goma and through the border of DRC and Uganda, and a long drive to Uganda, where they arrived almost early hours of this morning. And now what is important is that they will be taken to one of the site hospital of the United Nations at Entebbe Airport. You know that the United Nations has got many areas where they have these refugees, and in these countries where they have large number of refugees, they do have these hospitals where they take people to those hospitals, or where they have their soldiers, like, for example, MONUSC soldiers in the Great Lakes region, where they get treated. And therefore, they will be taken there. That's where some paperwork will be done. As you know, that repatriating a body, it's not an easy task. And therefore, those health processes and international law in terms of repatriation of bodies, particularly in this case where the United Nations is involved, because it is MONUSC that was given a task to repatriate these bodies. Then after all those processes, in the presence of officials from South Africa, from different departments, then they will be flown to South Africa. But nobody will be allowed on arrival, because then in South Africa again, certain processes must be done in terms of the laws of South Africa when you are repatriating bodies. And you would recall, because they were killed some few weeks ago, and the situation in that country is terrible. There are processes that you have to do in terms of how you treat the remains of those who have passed on in that situation. And then we will know, perhaps in few days to come, when will these bodies be handed over to their families. And therefore, there's hope that nothing will delay transporting the bodies from Uganda to South Africa. But, these processes are very complex. You are going to say they will arrive later today, only to find that there were delays that side. But definitely families of the deceased can now look forward to receiving their remains and start preparing for funerals so that they can find closure. The bodies are now out of the DRC.
Now, Sophie, we do understand that the South African government was firmly opposed to the idea of, passing the remains through Rwanda, ostensibly because they don't want to give President Paul Kagame, a propaganda opportunity to demonstrate his victory over South African and, the regional forces. Do we know if that's the reason why, they decided on the route of taking the bodies through Uganda?
No one will come in public to confirm that from government, because remember what the president said yesterday to the media, that he doesn't want to engage in mudslinging. And therefore, much as there was a view that we don't want our bodies to be flown from the Kigali airport, but that didn't stop the bodies going through a border in Rwanda. And that's why you saw those visuals and those pictures and updates by the Rwandan Broadcasting Corporation. And therefore, still you couldn't avoid that Rwanda would carry the story first. That is why SABC also, we made a point that we as a national broadcaster, we are also doing this story because this is a South African story close to home, and South Africans expect us, SABC, to communicate information so that they can make their own informed decisions. But there was no way you could have stopped the media in the Great Lakes region to do that. But I think the other important issue is that the president has just departed the airport. He's traveling to Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, where the issue of the conflict in the DRC is going to be discussed. And we'll get a sense later what will be the decision of the SADC and the East Africa group on this conflict in the DRC.
All right, Sophie, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your update. Sophie Mgwenade is the SABC News International Editor, just giving us an update on the state of the repatriation process of the 14 South African soldiers who will be taken through Uganda and back to South Africa, even though we don't know the exact time of their remains arrival here in South Africa.